Is data and what is statistics? What is this chapter going to be about? So what is data? It could be numbers. The result of something. So another result, though, would be like, what's your favorite color? Is that a number? No. You would say blue. Is blue a color? Or is blue a number? No. So it's not always numbers. So it could be numbers. Sometimes it's descriptions. But we're going to say facts collected. How exciting. Facts collected together to make conclusions. So some data that you have is your Skyward. What kind of data is in Skyward? And based on your grades, you can make conclusions on how well you understand the chapter, right? Or how well you understand that class. Okay, that's data, and that's what we do, and that's why we do gradebook, is so that at the end of the trimester, you don't just get a grade and there's like no explanation of why you got that grade. All right, we keep track of that data to show where you're headed, how it's going, things like that. Okay, a statistic this is a number usually, yep. It's a fact or a piece of data from a large study and it's used to summarize information. It's kind of a lot. So when I give you a statistic, it should give you some sort of information about that data. So like in the warm-up, Holly used 15 because she saw 15 used the most, or was the most. AJ estimated about what the middle would be. AJ estimated it was about 30. That's a statistic. 30 itself would be a stat. Okay. The data, or the data, is what we actually collect, that information. Okay. Depending on who you ask, some people say data, some people say data. I don't know. I kind of go between the two. All right. So today we're going to do a quick foldable. This foldable is a little bit different than the other ones that we've done, so maybe just wait to do it until we're all together. There's also a couple mistakes on it. It's really great. Love it.
Perfect. Don't worry.
So perfect. You want to do this one? All right, so go ahead and finish those parts of that.
I don't want to put on it. It was a really big paper.
You didn't copy those definitions. You didn't take a quick picture.
Don't you? Because it's a folder. Very nice. Because it's a folder. Oh, you're smart. Oh, it's not going to do it.
All right.
You have your buttons.
So with this piece of paper, how this is going to look is a little goofy. What you're going to do is you want this so that the box is up, so the words is facing you. All the words, the big words, not the big words. I don't know. Words. I can do this today. All right, you want it so that this part is facing up. Okay, so the part where you can see the time in minutes it took Trevor. This is going to be our problem that we're going to work through. Fold this. We're going to fold it to the top of that problem so that we can see that problem the whole time. Okay, so the big words should be on the table.
Is this all we're doing?
This is all we're doing. And then on the bottom, okay. On the bottom, same idea. We're folding it up, but we're going to fold it up so that we can still see that problem in the middle.
Do we need room on our paper as we fold this?
What? No, you won't need any more room other than this. So if you want to glue it in right away, you can. I like to write on it first, because otherwise sometimes it gets a little goofy. So I like to glue mine in at the end. Okay, so when you fold it, you want to be able to see that problem in the middle. And then you're going to take your scissors and we're going to just cut these little parts, there's just 2 small cuts. When you cut it, you're just cutting the flap on those black lines. So you have 2 flaps on top, and then cut that on the bottom, and you have 2 flaps on bottom. So you get like 4 little windows. So if we want to look at mean, we just open up that mean. If we want to look at whatever this is going to be, we open that and do that. Yeah, I screwed it up. At least I know before. In my last class, we were like in the middle of like halfway trying to figure out what the definition would be, and then as we were writing the definition, I was like, this isn't the right one. And then we had to erase the work, and it was a whole thing. So I'm going to glue it in just a moment. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Also, I screwed that up. There's a lot of mistakes on this one. Just breathe. I didn't do this one before this year. This is new to me. I did it where we had to write everything before. We will glue it in. If you want to glue it in, you can. I like to write on mine first because I don't like to have like that weird half on the notebook, half not when I'm writing. So if you want to glue it in, you can. You glue in this white part. This is what we did in the past years. We made one like this, but then we had to write everything.
I like that though.
But we had to write everything.
Yeah, but that's fun.
I think I'm going to want to do that.
Okay. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll live.
We have more glue.
Okay. We have so many glue lines. Well, this is the one we get to do Monday.
Are we going to take more than 1 page on this?
No, most of these are 1 page. All right, here we go. So we're going to start with mean. Does anyone remember what is the definition of mean, or what is that key word that we think of with mean? It's more work than the others. Yeah, there's a couple steps to it. Because it's mean to you? Because it's so much work? Okay.
Isn't that where you like add them all up and then divide?
You add them all up, divide by how many there is. It's the calculated center. So we're doing data or measures of center. So it's our center of the data. Another word we use for mean is average. So we're going to put that keyword at the top, average. That's kind of the way that most people talk about mean in real life. A lot of times you wouldn't hear someone say, what's the mean of this data? They just ask, what's the average? Okay, but if you're actually a stats person, you would learn things about that mean and use that mean a lot. Okay, so it's really important. All right, and somebody already told us this. What's the first? Add the data points together. If you need to put a plus sign there, just to remind yourself what add means, put a plus sign there. So our first step is to add all the data points together. And then what is step number 2 going to be? Divide by how many there are. Yep, so divide by the number of data points. So we're just doing this all with the same example today. We're not going to redo multiple problems with this. We're just going to do it with this one example, which is the problem in the middle. It says the time in minutes it took Trevor to walk to school for 2 weeks are listed below. We're looking at this problem here. Okay, so we have these numbers, and I want to find the mean of those numbers. So what's my first step going to be with those? Add them together. So we have 18 plus... This part you probably don't need to look on the board. You're just adding these together. So look at your own paper. We're just writing this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this. So 18 plus 15 plus 14, 15, 17, 21, 16, 20, 18, and 19. We're going to find what is that when we add all of those together. Anyone doing that in the calculator while we were writing those? What'd you get? 173. Did anyone else do it? Looks like Naeem was working on it. You got 173 too? All right, we got 3 people who said it was 173. I trust that then. Okay, so 173. Another word, what do we call that answer to an addition problem? Sum. So this might be called the sum. If in your questions, in your practice, it asks what's the sum, that's what we're talking about, is how much was it when we added it together. All right, now we're going to take that sum, that 173, and divide, and we have to be careful because in this one, if you just read the problem thinking it's 2 weeks, how many days would you assume 2 weeks is? 14. But were there 14 numbers?
There's 10.
There's only 10. What? Did he skip school for 4 days? Oh, the weekends. So smart. All right, so 173 divided by 10. 17.3.
I'm not very good at that.
All right, so 173 divided by 10, 17.3. And we do want to label this. So if I tell someone that the average is 17.3, they're like, okay, 17.3 feet, 17.3 degrees, 17.3 minutes. Okay, so that's our calculated center. And when we do a calculated center, it takes into account how many the majority is. Is the majority smaller than 15? Is the majority in the middle? If we have a really big number, one day maybe it took you 36 minutes. It takes into account that there was a day with that, but it also takes into account that most of the days aren't that. So that's our calculated. If you write in your steps here, step number 1 was to add. And then here's our step number 2. Divide. All right. Because I am the most amazing math teacher in the world, I screwed up. My bad. All right, on this next one where it says median, I crossed it out already for you. You're welcome. This is supposed to say mode. So make that really nice and big. The bottom one is supposed to say median, so if you want to write that now, you can. Foldables are hard, man. Alright, so I'm going to close up my mean. I'm going to now do my mode. Does anyone remember what word do we connect with that word mode? More? Kind of. More or most. Most is kind of that word that sounds like mode to me, so I think of most. So it's the number that appears the most often in the data, not of the data. So if you want to switch that, if that's going to bother you, make that an in the data. Sure. You get a pass. All right. A couple of things that are fun about our mode is there can be no mode sometimes. Sometimes there's not a number that happens more often than others. If all the numbers only happen one time, then it's no mode. So if I asked you like how old you were each year, that would change each year, right? You'd be 9 one year, the next year you'd be 10, next year you'd be 11, next year you'd be 12. Do you have in your life a year that you were longer on that age than you were other ages? Okay. Other than leap years. All right. We're being real nitpicky here. All right. Either way, most of the time your years would be the same. So if you're going to be like decimal pointage, I suppose. All right. Or if everything happens like exactly 2 times each, then there would be no mode. Okay. However, there's some data where there can be more than one. There can be some data where it's more than one. So if there's like 2 or 3 numbers that happen more often than others, but they're kind of tied for first. They have the most amount, but they all have the same amount together. It's kind of goofy. All right, so the way I like to do mode, some people are really good visually being able to like look at this and seeing like what pops out at them as happening the most. That's not something I'm personally good at, so I like to order it from least to greatest. Okay, so what's my smallest number here? 14. Then what? Someone keep doing that for us. 15. 15. 16. 17. 18. 18. 19. 20. And 21. Okay, and these are all pretty close together because we're walking to school. It shouldn't be like crazy amount of difference, right? Okay. So are there any numbers that happen more often than others? 15 and 18. Between 15 and 18, they both happen 2 times. So how many modes does this data have? 2. So our mode is 15 and 18. And again, what's our label? Minutes. So one way Trevor might want to describe his walk is if somebody asks how long does it take you to walk to school, he might say, well, most days it takes me 15 or 18 minutes. Okay, that might be one way he wants to describe his data. The most often it takes about 15 minutes or 18 minutes. All right, we're going to jump down to median. So we're actually going to work on the right side. I don't know why. I don't know. This foldable's a mess, you guys. It was a thing.
Maybe we should have just made our own.
I know, but I didn't realize it until my other class was already in the middle of making theirs, and then I didn't want to have them do. Okay, well, we're already halfway through, people. All right. Median. Does anyone remember what is that key word with median that we remember? Middle. So if you want to write that at the top, middle. Okay, our key word with this one is middle. What? Yeah, change that bottom one to median, where it was mode, where it's crossed out. Median, M-E-D-I-A-N. And median means middle. Or it's the number located in the center of the data because we're doing measures of center. So if I want to find what's located in the middle, I don't want to just be like, oh, what's in the middle of this one? I want to know what overall is the middle amount. So what's my first step going to be? Order from least to greatest. Which we already did, so that's exciting because we don't have to do that step. We did that for mode, so we'll be able to copy. Okay, once we order least to greatest, we're then going to move between the high and the low numbers. Now, when some people say this, and they're doing their high and low, they go like high, low, high, low, high, low, and then some people are like, what the heck is high, low? Yeah, that's 2 separate words. Some people make it one word when they say it. Or they go low, high, low, high, low, high, and you're like, what's low, high? And they think it's like a different language you're speaking. Just low and high. We just say it really fast. So we're working our way towards the low and the high to come to the middle. Okay, if there's 2 numbers in the middle, does anyone remember what we do with n? We are going to divide by 2. What do we do before we divide by 2? Add. We add those numbers together in the middle and divide by 2 so we can find what actually is in between those numbers, what is exactly in the center. Keontae. Okay, so we already put these in order, so you should be able to open up your mode flap and you can just copy these down in that order. If not, follow along. This one's really nice if you can make them all into one, small, so they fit into one line. We have 14, 15, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now, when some of you learned median, your teacher taught you to cross out the numbers. Do not cross the numbers out. When we get to L3 and L4, you will not want to cross them out because then you have to rewrite it. You have to rewrite it like 3 or 4 times. Okay, so when we do this, we want to do like dots, or you could do like little hearts or smiley faces, but don't do it where you like get rid of the numbers completely because we want to be able to use this multiple times eventually. Okay, so that's just a helpful hint when we get to L3 and L4. Okay, so we're going to go with my high number is 21, and what does 21 match up with? 14. This is kind of like that chopsticks. Did anyone play chopsticks on the piano when they're younger? Go no? You guys know what I'm talking about? No? Okay, cool. We're working our way towards the middle, so 20 would go with 15. We're kind of matching them up. 19 would match with 15. 18 matches with 16. If I do 18 and 17, what's going to happen? If I do 18 and 17, what would happen? We wouldn't have any numbers left in the middle. So we need to figure out what is in the middle of 17 and 18. And some of you are going to know this without even thinking about it. What comes exactly in the middle between 17 and 18? 17.5 or 17 and a half. However, if there are larger numbers that you don't know, like 26 and 57, then you want to do your adding and dividing. So let's just practice that real quick. We're going to do 17 plus 18. I'm going to do a little arrow here. What is 17 plus 18? 35. Divided by 2. 17.5. Yeah, in this data, we're going to talk about that eventually. In this data, when I look at my median and my mode and my mean, what do you notice about all our numbers? They're similar. We have 17.3, 17.5, and between 15 and 18, 17 is kind of in between those, right? They're kind of all within the same range, the same amount. So overall, what would be a really good number for Trevor to use to describe his time? 17-ish, right? Okay, but the range is really important because now if he plans on 17 minutes, is it guaranteed he will get to school within 17 minutes every day? No, because it varies. There's a different amount. So this one range actually isn't a measure of center. This is called a measure of spread. Okay, so range is how spread the data is. If you want to rewrite that word data there because it got cut off. I fixed it for next year. Isn't that fun? If you guys want, I can learn this lesson again. You can redo it next year when I have it printed, right? No? You're good? All right. And how do we find out how far spread out the data is? We subtract. And what parts do we subtract? Biggest and the smallest. What's a professional word in math for biggest? Close. That's also a professional. It starts with an M I'm looking for. Maximum. For some reason I thought you guys were going to know that, but that's okay. Maximum, which is like the biggest. If you need that keyword in there to remind yourself what maximum means. Minus the minimum. And what does minimum mean? The smallest. And because we already did our mode and we did our median, we should already know what is our maximum and what is our minimum. So what was our maximum? What was the biggest number? 21 minus, what's our minimum, our lowest number? 14. And that is 7. So 7 minutes is our range, meaning that he might need to plan in an extra 7 minutes Or if he's like, well, I made it to school one time in 14 minutes, so I can just always leave and sleep in an extra 5 minutes, right? Okay, but that was a really good Trevor voice. Like Trevor did when you talk like this. This is Trevor. Okay, so if he thinks that, well, 14 minutes, if I just leave the house every time at 14 minutes, I'll get there because I made it there once in 14 minutes. But overall, there's a range of 7 minutes, so you might always want to plan that extra 7 minutes because you might get held up. What would happen on your way to school if you're walking to school? Why is it different? Traffic, weather, yeah, all that good stuff. All right, so if you didn't glue it in yet, you are gluing in this white part on the back. You'll glue in this part here. And then if you still have space in your notes, throw that in there on the bottom. Yep, in a second. Okay. There is a quick check today. It is in Schoology. It's 3 questions. 3 questions? I think it's 3 questions. Maybe it's more. I don't remember. One question is going to be about definitions. One question is about mean, median, mode, range. One question is going to be about modes. I think that's it. Next week we will do an L2 on Monday. Wednesday we'll do a practice for both. So those of you that